Well,
I don't know who said this. Was it Jared? If obviously, if not for Michael Mann, must have watched this movie a lot.
Oh yeah.
oh,
Man loves Melville.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said at the party.
He was a darling of all the Nouvelle Vague guys too, like Truffaut and Godard loved him.
Yeah.
Well, and he worked with those guys too. Like,
He was older, but
yeah.
Also,
No,
this is the best dressed stripper team in Paris.
I really liked their Josephine Baker ones.
That came up later on. I was like, that nightclub was the same one in Samurai, wasn't it? Or felt like it.
Very similar.
It felt a lot like
half.
I like that one stripper is just like standing there, and then he's like, "Go get my coat and hat," and she's like, "Okay."
No, we're watching that. It's like, why is that?
The woman who hands him the rose at the end?
Yeah,
she's she's the lead in Weekend.
Oh wow!
Oh, okay.
I did not recognize her. Yeah. There was that long scene where they're and a woman's just standing there, like wearing a fake Playboy bunny outfit.
Yeah, she was great.
I didn't know what she was doing until he said, "Get my coat." Like,
that shot behind Chris, man. Like,
I didn't catch that.
I loved this movie.
It's okay. I already lost.
Billiards thing.
It's such. It's the billiard scene is so good.
It's so good. Everything is so good. I
don't understand the game they're playing. There's no pockets in that table. What is that?
Billiards.
Yeah, it's billiards. Yeah, it's just three
balls, billiards.
Okay.
And you're supposed to hit one first and then bang until you hit the other one.
Okay.
Well, but he's got so much style.
It's the cinema of style.
Yeah, and he's but he does it right. He does it. I see his influence on like so many other filmmakers, and there's just nothing about this one or Les Samurai that feels off to me. I love both. I loved every second of this.
Like,
but it works.
And he does the best cop characters too. Like at one point,
this guy's a great cop character.
Yeah. But the other one, Bouvril, who died like almost
right
after the movie came
out. Is that the inspector guy?
Yeah,
the inspector. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because they gave him like he's like a crazy cat lady. Like it's cool. Like he's got.
I know he's got those 3 cats. It's like
I love the scene where he's like, "Oh, I've been gone for 3 days. You guys are probably hungry," and the one cat won't get out of the chair. And he's just like, "You two, like, like, it's a good,
it makes them real, it makes them, it fleshes them out.
There's one point where somebody says something to him, another cop, I think it's after he sees the internal affairs guy, and he just does this shrug when the guy turns around, and it's just so perfect.
Well, didn't they use the guy that played the club owner who didn't want to snitch? Wasn't he in Les Samurai?
He might have been.
That actor.
Yeah, we've definitely seen him.
Definitely seen him before.
Yeah.
And he was great.
Yeah.
The guy that basically didn't want, to be an informant, but was being forced to.
Yeah.
And they brought his son in. That was a low blow, dude.
There's so much cool shit in this movie. Like it's like this is one of those movies where like Melville was like, how much cool shit can I fit in this? Let's do it. Like,
well, it's like this was like Les Samurai. This was okay. If Les Samurai is Goodfellas, this is Casino. You know what I mean? This is like bigger, longer,
a little more bold,
just as fucking cool. Like, well, I think Casino's underrated, but like,
I agree with you, Jared.
Yeah, like it was great, man. I loved every second of this.
I love the part when he's in the trunk and he drives into that field, and he just drives around in circles for a little while, and then he gets out and he just goes and stands. He's like, you can come out now. He's like
doesn't sits on the thing.
Yeah.
Comes out with a gun,
and then he comes out with the gun. He throws him the cigarettes and he throws them the lighter, and he can't catch the lighter because he's holding the cigarettes and the gun. So he has to put the gun away so he can get the lighter. That's such a good feeling out moment between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all right there. It's just like, okay, you're not going to shoot me. I can put this gun away and pick up the lighter. Like, all right, fine.
I admire this movie too for doing something that more films should do, which is you only have dialogue when it's necessary. Like there's a lot of people don't speak in this movie, especially Alain Delon.
It's like 23 minutes for that heist where
like
nobody says
anything.
Nobody says anything.
The heist was beautifully executed, right? No one talks.
The first line after that is the cop going, "They're not big talkers."
Yeah,
exactly. But also
it was perfect.
Unlike most films of the era, you don't have to read. You had a great segment with no subtitles to read. You just kind of concentrate on
the visuals,
on how cool everything is.
On how cool
it's really cool. Exactly. And that's how I felt about Sisu as well. It's like Sisu didn't have any dialogue when they didn't need it.
I was rather grateful it was in English too, because it's like you can just concentrate in the look, instead of having to and to read all of the.
I love the dumb masks. The masks are so
they're so cool.
They're
awesome.
Kind of fun.
Like your profile.
They're really cool.
It's just one of those Melville
they're like bad magician masks in the 80s or something.
Yeah. Melville does this stuff where like you can tell, much like Michael Mann, who was mentioned earlier, he really thinks about every part of the movie. It's like, how would these guys dress? How would they talk? How would they walk? How would they drive?
How would the heist go down? They don't make it up on the day. He's like, this is exactly how they're going to do it. Right. I mean, it took them 20 fucking minutes to cut a hole in the fucking glass. That was awesome.
Time spent on this guy and those bullets he had to fabricate in order to pop the button to get the door.
The keyhole.
For one like 14-second scene in the movie. Like
it's a lot of
I really like the fact that you're in Paris and you don't see any of the normal things in Paris, except for that bridge.
There's no Arc de Triomphe
in the background.
There's no Arc de Triomphe. But the other thing was, it's shot in winter, and it's just miserable. There's no sunshine in the entire thing.
It's a very gray movie.
And I love it.
I just love it, and the cars are filthy. Between the
they're off-roading it a lot, but it's also shit splashing up on the cars from the road,
especially after they go into the muddy fields.
And all of the power at this point is coming from coal plants, so there's just fucking coal dust coming out of the sky.
I'm sure.
And this is one of my new favorite. It's all about hats and trench coat movies. Like, just everybody's in a trench and a hat.
Everybody wears a trench coat in this.
Yeah.
I love when the guy's getting away and he takes all of his clothes off and he throws it across the river, and then he goes back across, and then he's like getting back and he's got to put the coat back on. Like, you can't keep going if you don't have your coat on. Like it's
also fucking cold because it's snowing a little while later.
Well, he's probably quite cold after going through that river.
Oh my god, that river must have been freezing.
Yeah, mind you, there was a great confluence of you had two storylines at the beginning, and they're both about criminals and cops. One is
this movie does not spoon feed any of that shit to you.
The other one is kind of being compromised by them, and they're both dealing with the cops. But the thing is, these guys don't know each other. It's like when they collide, it's a complete coincidence, and that makes it kind of fun because it's like they again, Ted's and feeling each other out, kind of to see where they're coming from. Made it interesting because you don't see a lot of films like this in terms of kind of meeting.
Figures him out, and then he hands him over his dismissal papers from getting out of prison. And
that's right.
Like, oh, okay, I know. Now I know who you are.
And by the middle of the movie, or I think by the time they go to they go to that dude's apartment, it's all like dusty and shit, and they're like kind of rummaging around in there.
Man,
I mean, I think it was at that point. Looks like we lost Chris. I think it was like at that point where I was like, these guys are best fucking friends now. Yeah. These guys would die for each other now at this point. I love it.
I love the long-term rent policy they have in France. It's like, you go to jail if you leave your apartment alone, untouched.
They do cut off your phone, the phone and the electricity.
Yeah,
right.
That was his apartment.
I love it. He picks up the phone. He's just like, nope, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work.
So I know this is like a love fest, so let me just put this on.
Chris is wrong.
I think Alain Delon's the weak link in this whole fucking movie.
Interesting.
It's not just his terrible.
You are wrong.
Which I hate with the white hot passion of 1,000 suns.
You hate what?
I love the mustache.
I hate his mustache.
It's so great.
I hate his mustache. I hate his mustache.
It's so good.
It's so
I like it.
terrible.
I think it's great.
He looks cool, but I don't think he can't. My opinion was that he could not pull off the gravitas when compared to the guys he's playing against. Like he just always kind of like a lightweight.
Dude, in Les Samurai, he has so much fucking gravitas, dude.
Well, I think the point Chris is trying to make here is that he's trying to cruise on style. You know, because
and I thought that the other two guys, like everybody else in this movie, was like, it was like I was thinking about French Connection, which came out a year after this, where like you've kind of got these sort of like really hard-boiled Gene Hackman and Fernando Rey and Roy Scheider. Like I bought it. I did not buy this. He looks good, except for that horrible mustache. But I did not buy it.
Well, like I said, maybe
I really like that Chris is having the fucking Jared Leto angel face moment from Fight Club.
Well,
like he's just like, oh, you're too fucking pretty.
I just felt like destroying something beautiful.
The argument is that
and it's worse. I was constantly reminded of Zac Efron.
You can kind of almost tell him. I'm backing.
How can you compare the two?
That DeLon kind of knows how.
Put him side by side, man.
Yeah. In some of the scenes, you can tell he kind of knows how pretty he is himself. You know what I mean?
I think this was after he almost got arrested for being in an orgy. So yeah, he does.
Well, he's irresistible to women, so you know, and
men.
And men.
Yeah. The arrest wasn't
to everyone.
with a bunch of
exactly.
I find him completely irresistible.
Exactly. The rest of the guys, the other guys, two guys in there, they're kind of grungy looking, you know, kind of like gnarled and look like actually one of them. Like actually,
this guy looks like he's an actual alcoholic.
Yeah,
I buy every
and that he used to be a cop. I buy all of it.
That DT scene is going to be
is either a criminal or a corrupt cop, basically, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what the chief says. Everyone is bad.
Everyone in this movie is bad.
The reason that this is an apocalypse movie is because this is a world that only exists in sin. There is nothing outside of sin in this world. There's the people who are trying to stop it, and then there's the people who are doing it, and that's it. There is no outside world. It is crime and nothing else.
Cops and robbers. Basically.
Which is like all of these kinds of movies, and that's why we love them.
The DT scene I'll never forget as long as I live.
Even the kids actually are criminals. They're fucking dealing pot.
I had Eileen in the corner where she started watching the film with me, and we were like, yeah, it's okay, it's all right, it's a French film. Then that scene happened with the DTs, and it's like, okay, I'm in 100%. What first brought it in was the wallpaper. It's like, that wallpaper is like, hypnotic.
Well, it's just the thing to have when you're having DT.
I get,
it clashes so badly with his blanket too.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
And there's something like something fatalistic about the entire thing too. The title and how it opens, and just even the image behind Chris. You know, the quote at the beginning, you're like, this is not going to end well. Like this is going
also
to be
made up.
Right.
He made that up the same way he made up the Bushido quote at the beginning of Les Samurai,
which I love because why not
doing that?
He's there to make shit up. So Miles will make shit up. So he's good ahead and did it. Right?
Well, if you're a writer, you're a writer.
Yep.
It's a good scene where they kill those two guys.
That was fun.
And then he wipes off the guns and he throws them on him. So it's like, oh, they shot each other.
Right. For a while they were talking about that too. It's like, oh, they shot.
And I love that immediately he goes for the money, pulls it out. Damn, it's covered in blood, and he leaves it.
And a hole in it too.
And because like a lesser film would have had him go, wait, no, don't, shit, like say some stupid shit like he's got the money and but it's just like there's no time for that when you're like, we got to kill these fucking guys. Like they just do it, and then he's like, afterward, I got to check that. Damn.
Yeah,
they're dead.
They're dead. We got to go. This money's fucked. Get in the car.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Without saying anything, nothing was spoken, and that's exactly what the conversation was.
Well, stack was probably like 10,000 francs. It probably went to buy dinner.
Or I think he said they might hear the shots. We got to go or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Well, those are new francs, so it's like $2,000.
Okay, it's a lot, but nothing to write home about.
They're so big.
Yeah.
Two of those bills were huge.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no question that like. You look at this and go, oh, okay, Michael Mann, Scorsese, Tarantino, like anybody that made a movie about bad guys and worse guys and the cops trying to either get a piece of it.
Roger Ebert called them young men with gun movies.
Yeah, I mean, that like weirdly, I remember the cover. Like I remember, you're at the Criterion section of the Barnes & Noble, whatever. You see the cover and like, I don't know, like I scroll right on by. So I'm glad you finally picked this because I never really thought to spend time looking at it.
I've always heard about it, but never.
And there's no question that like it's crazy influential. And like I think about this, and then a year later, French Connection comes out, which also kind of takes that and Friedkin did his own version of it. Like, you know, for me, like, again, the weakest link is the Alain Delon's performance. I just wonder, like, would I liked it a lot better if anybody else had been in it? But there's very little. I mean, like, it's a very easy movie to like.
It is.
Oh yeah.
Like, it checks a whole lot of boxes for all kinds of movies that I've seen a million times.
Although it did have kind of a Hollywood ending in the bad way, and that all the bad guys got killed.
But that was so 1970s, though. Like,
that's true. That one did presage a lot of stuff in the new Hollywood.
Right. There was no
watched on this show where it's like the bad guy.
But it also felt like an older noir where you had to restore justice at the end by the code. Yeah. You know, it felt like that. It wasn't that.
No, this is this.
No, I'm saying it wasn't that. It wasn't that. It felt like that. That's what I'm saying.
But this movie is so like nihilistic. Like that's the only way. That's the only way this ends.
If it was,
but also you
really
nihilistic
if they got away with it though, wouldn't that be more nihilistic? Like Happy Ever After.
No, the fact that Yves Montaigne's character like turns them in and like gives himself up pretty much.
Yeah. This is one of those rare movies where I loved it so much that I actually did care about all three of them, and I was bummed that they got smoked. I knew they were going to die, but you know, like especially when the cop gets it and he goes, "It's you," you know, and there's something in you that just goes, "Oh man, these were good guys, though." You know, it's like one of those.
Well, it's like a Butch Cassidy ending. You think about it, which was just 2 years before, right? Well, like, you could just wipe out your main characters, as cute and wonderful as they are. Just go ahead and do it.
And they just get shot by random cops.
Too. I know.
Yeah.
Right.
Like there's no big showdown. There's no big. It's just like, well, that's what happens. Anyway, now we have to go catch another criminal. Like, it's just like everything is all in a day's work for everyone.
Pretty much at the end, he agrees with the internal affairs general and just says like, yeah, well, I guess you were right, you know.
Yeah,
people are fucked.
Like Melville is just like a master of visual storytelling here. He's really showcasing.
Well, again, with that non-dialogue sequence, he had
27 minutes. Yeah. I mean, come on.
I didn't even notice no one was talking. I was just too engrossed by the whole thing.
But even, I mean, I think you could turn the sound off on this entire movie, and you would get every single part of it.
Yeah, you'd have basically an idea of what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, with the exception of like the everyone's bad line and that kind of thing. Like,
right. There's some dialogue that actually has meaning.
But mostly the dialogue.
Yeah, and that's not an insult on the dialogue. It's just a compliment on his visual style.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. I think we kind of covered it. I think. Do you want to go to cards at this point?
It's like
I have.
No, it's like the love fest is starting to go to lap itself.
No, I have something to complain about.
Okay. Now that's good.
Good. I'm not the only one.
Those fucking rear projections behind all the cars just were.
Totally
annoying.
It's still not as bad as the one in Blood Simple. The one in Blood Simple is the worst.
But I'm glad you brought it up, Jim, because they did I've never seen a movie that did both.
Yeah.
Like they did a mixture here. So they have real car shots from inside the car of them driving, especially when they're facing, when the camera is in the back seat and they're facing, the road they're going down.
Right.
That was all real.
Out of the car.
He shoots out of the car, but he won't shoot. And I was like, why is he faking the background if he's going to do a real, and he had a lot of, exterior real car shots as well.
I think it's budgetary.
Right. No,
I think it was budget.
Inside out with a big camera.
Time.
Because you don't have to worry
but
about
I'm glad you brought that up. That's the only thing that bothered me too. I was like, he doesn't need to do that.
They probably don't have the same
given the movie we're about to talk about.
Developed,
no, driving from the inside out is you get a big camera, you set up in the back seat, and you can make as much noise as you want. But shooting in with your dialogue, you gotta do it on a soundstage, or else you're not gonna get the dialogue. Because back then it was
this is before wireless microphones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was like the setups. You see the setups back then of like driving scenes with the cameras on the thing and they're driving along. They had to hook generators up in front of the radiator to get to power everything. It was like really,
it's too hard.
So there. Okay, now we're going to the cards.
But it was fun.
Yes.
All right.
Never really heard of it. Glad I watched.
Yeah, me too. It was really fun.
I was going to choose it here in a couple of weeks.
I want to go to that. I want to
super awesome.
I want to go to that nightclub, and I think also all the restaurants looked really tempting in this too. It's like it was really quite good.